Hey, kitty. Good morning. Lily, good morning. Are you okay? Are you okay? Well, I love you too. Hi, it's JP. I wanted to do an update. I got my internet back, so it reset yesterday. But in the meantime, I left the camping area up there. I just can't take that camper. It's just, well, I wanted to do a update, let everybody know that I'm doing good. Everything's okay. I got my internet back. It reset on the 3rd. That was yesterday. But in the meantime, I left the camping area. I left the rim area up there. I tried to live in that camper, but it's just I just can't do it. It's just too small for me. Every time you move, you knock something over, and something slides off the table, and I just couldn't take it. It was just too small for me. So I came back to the home base, and I'm getting the motorhome ready. It should be ready today or tomorrow, and I'll head back out. Going to do an update on the story that I've been telling, and some of you have been waiting, and some of you are probably groaning about it, but it is what it is, I guess. So anyway, I guess that's about it. That's all I wanted to say. Lily's doing fine. She couldn't take the camper either. She didn't like it at all. There was just no way for her to run back and forth and play, and jump on stuff without knocking everything off the table. And she ended up just sleeping all the time, day in, day out. So that's not good for her. So as soon as I put her back in the motorhome, we came back. I put her back in the motorhome. She immediately recognized the place, and she was within an hour or so. She was just fine. She was running back and forth and jumping around and having a good time. So she knew exactly where she was. So anyway, that's it. I'll talk to you soon. Like I said, in the next day or two, I'll be heading back up. So I'll continue the story right after this. Bye. In the last episode, I had decided to stay in the mountains a while. I didn't know how long I would stay, but for now it was going to be at least through the winter. So I packed up and covered the signs that someone had been there and started to move. At first it was hard going, but I had gathered all of my resolve the night before and was determined to stay and make a life with what I had. I rode my horse and pulling the pack horse behind until midday. Figured both horses needed to rest for a while, so I found a place that was fairly level and took some weight off of them. The weather was more like early fall. The sun was bright and warm, so I decided to look for squirrels or small game. I was thinking a nice fat rabbit would have been nice for supper tonight. I made a few traps in the woods, but knew I would need to put a few more miles on before settling down for the night. I waited for a while by the horses in hopes that there would be something in one of the traps. About 2 hours went by, so I checked and found one had a squirrel in it. I kind of chuckled and said under my breath, better that than nothing at all. I repacked the horse and started to move again. I wanted to find some place with water this night so I could refill my canteens and maybe stay a couple of days. I began to realize that I was still in my city mode and thought I had to be someplace, although I didn't know where that might be. I kept moving till sundown when I came upon a nice clearing with a small stream, just what I was looking for. I started a supper fire and settled in for the night. I thought I would wait till morning and see if I still wanted to stay in this place for a few days. I kept looking at my watch to see if it was time for bed. I smiled that I was watching the clock to do something that was routine. About 10, I figured it was time for bed. As I lay there thinking of the day, I began to realize I had no idea where I was. I had just been moving with no particular direction. Was I lost? How can I be lost when I had no plans to go back to where I started? I drifted off to sleep in a while, but I was still thinking about not knowing where I was. Sometime in the night, I was woke by a snap of a twig and the feeling someone was there. I slowly unzipped a corner of my tent door and peered out. There he was again, the Indian brave, sitting by the fire. Only this time I did not yell out at him. I slid my pillow over to my head and lay down to watch him. He appeared to be over 6 feet tall and long black hair, pulled into a tight ponytail. His headband was red and yellow with 4 eagle feathers sticking out to the right side of his head. He was warming his hands near the flame of the fire that I could have swore I put out before going to bed. He would occasionally look at me with eyes that said, "I know you are there, and I know you are watching me," but for some reason I was not frightened of this very large man. His arm muscles gleamed in the light of the fire as he moved them. He stood and faced me directly and spoke in a language I could not understand. I could tell he wanted something from me, but his words were not understandable to me. He shook his head in frustration and sat back down. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I woke he was gone. The fire was still warm, and there was a thick fog in the forest. I looked around for footprints or something to justify that what I saw last night was not a dream. I did find just 1 eagle feather laying by the rock he was sitting on, and concluded that he had been there. But what did he want? Was he still angry that my cousins and I disturbed, for all we knew, his gravesite? I thought about that a while I was preparing for breakfast, and I thought if he was there for revenge, I would not have been here to think about it. I stayed a few more days, but he never appeared again. I was still too close to the old Indian village and could have been found, and I knew by this time I did not want that. So I packed again and covered any evidence that I had been there. I traveled for a week until the meat started to run low, and I figured I'd better find some place to stay and hunt. The weather was starting to turn cold again, and I knew I had better find some place more permanent for the coldest part of winter. On the 8th day, I was walking along a cliff, and I could see for miles into a valley. I thought this would be a good place to hold up for a while. The cliff was facing south and would be warmed by the sun somewhat during the day. There was a flat area for the horses and tent. I could be comfortable here, so I built a lean-to on the face of the cliff and started to make it my own. I took an inventory of all supplies and had enough for a few more days with what I had. The ammunition for the rifle was getting low, so I needed to conserve as much as I could. Trap what I could and pick berries and other edibles and save the ammunition for big game. I needed bearskin.